Welcome to Quick Insights on Congressional Investigations with Michael Levy and Andrew Olmem, our 5-minute perspectives on the most important and challenging issues surrounding congressional investigations. I'm Michael Levy, a white-collar defense attorney at Mayor Brown. My partner, Andrew Olmem, is a former Republican chief counsel on the Senate Banking Committee. Today, we're pleased to present part 2 of our conversation with Jessica Donlon. And we thought we would take advantage of her perspective right now as general counsel for the minority on the House Committee on Oversight and Reform to ask whether the minority really can effectively conduct congressional oversight. Jessica, what are your thoughts?
Certainly, the minority can certainly effectively still conduct oversight. Granted, we don't have the same set of tools that we would if we were the majority. We don't have the gavel. We don't have the unilateral subpoena authority. We have smaller staff. That said, there are still ways that we can still effectively conduct oversight.
Jessica, can you talk a little bit about the tools that you use to conduct oversight in the minority?
Yes, so the most obvious way is still doing request letters, the beginning of almost all oversight investigations through the request letters, that we still can send those requesting information, documents, and testimony even. We can also, for example, at hearings, demand answers and ask questions and conduct oversight through the hearings that we do have, even though we aren't the ones that are calling the hearing. Our members of Congress are still present at those hearings. And there are, also we can highlight our oversight through the press and, bring, sunlight as the best disinfectant, kind of highlighting that oversight that we are doing.
So Jessica, say one of these requests, as polite as it might be, gets ignored or rejected, which apparently does happen sometimes. What do you do after that situation?
Yes, it is known to happen that requests get ignored, but I do believe that persistence does pay off and does produce results. And on top of that, there are opportunities through bipartisanship by having requests joined by the majority, and that has happened and does happen, and that's always where we're at our strongest as both a committee but as an institution of Congress. If we are conducting oversight protecting the equities of our institution of Congress, that said, we also building the record for the minority is important, even if we don't have our majority counterparts. So for example, if we build the record and if at some point in the future the House flips, then we have already established that we have been requesting this information and documents. And one of our other tools is for the Oversight Committee is the 7-member rule.
Well, the 7-member rule is something we have covered in a prior episode at length. So for people who want to brush up on that, we have that prior episode to watch. And it can be an effective tool, and it's a unique tool, but it only applies to House oversight. So what about, in your experience, other committees? How does the minority on other committees that don't have the 7-member rule, how do they get access to subpoena power?
They don't, again, they're not going to be able to use the subpoena power, but what they can do is still do that same bread and butter oversight. But one of the other tools they have, or one of the other ways they can get and build off, is through the offices of Inspector General or the Government Accountability Office. These entities, these institutions are conducting their own audits and inquiries, and members of Congress, can, and the minorities can request them to do these audits investigations, and based on those findings and conclusions, spearhead and catapult and do some additional oversight.
So although the toolbox on the minority side may be more limited, the minority certainly has a number of mechanisms it can use to try to conduct oversight. We certainly don't always advise clients to comply with all requests from the minority, but we make sure we always take those requests seriously. You try to strategically work through what the consequences could be. And in general, you try to explore to see if there are ways you may be able to satisfy the request sufficiently to avoid triggering sort of one of the escalations that you described. So with that, Andrew and I both want to extend our sincere appreciation to you, Jessica, for taking the time to speak with us. And we hope that all the rest of you will join us for our next episode, even if it's without Jessica. Thanks.